Alright, so this is what comes in the box with it. You have the bell jar, the canopy, the mounting bar, screws, some wire knots, the Edison style bulb, and some instructions. And in my case, the instructions did not include the color coding for the power cables. Oh, sorry, for the wires themselves. So, I do know electricity, so I'm going to point a few things out. So you do have 3 cables, since housing now has, well, any modern housing has grounding. Older houses may not. Older grounding may just be an exposed wire hanger looking copper wire, or it can be like this. So you can't see really from this camera, but on these 3, there's a stripe of white, a stripe of green, and then one without a stripe. The stripe of green is the one we're going to work with first, as it is the grounding wire, and it's always the most important one to start with. Secondly, we're going to go with the neutral wire, or the negative, as it doesn't supply any power, and it provides the next step in current, so that when you do plug in the power, it has somewhere properly to go instead of trying to pass through the closest object that's grounded. And finally, the power cable, which is going to go ahead and supply the power. No matter what you're doing, make sure that either the wires or power is not connected. If you're doing this to an existing lamp, make sure the circuit breaker fuse is turned off or pulled out, and all the lines are powered off. Now, in the case like me, where I live in an apartment, I do want to go ahead and give myself the ability to have a nice object like this without having to worry about wiring and all the other stuff that goes with having an apartment. So there's going to be parts that I'm not going to need in this whole situation. Mainly, I'm not going to need the canopy. I'm not going to need the mounting brackets. I'm just going to need some of the simpler items and the knots. I'm also going to need certain things, and this is for anything that you should have working with, whether it's ceiling fixture or a movable fixture like I'm going to be doing. You're going to want to have electrical tape, a Phillips screwdriver, and an existing cord for plugging in. You can buy those at any Home Depot. You can actually get just the end, so you can plug this part directly in, as they do give you a lot of slack when you're trying to adjust it. Or in this case, since I'm using a dimmable switch so that I can control the brightness, I'm using one that I already had that the fixture itself kind of broke. I'm going to be using that as the place where I connect everything and safely secure and keep out of the way of the wire knots. So let's go ahead and disassemble this piece. So I'm not going to need any of this, so I need to remove the belt and then just yank this through. Now, this has a seal in it so that it won't move on its own, but it has enough slide that you can actually pull through. So I'm going to put you on pause, and I'm going to go ahead and remove the canopy from the device. All right, so I removed the canopy, as you can see, exposing a really, really long wire. Now, if you look very carefully, if I get this into focus, you'll see the green wire, the white wire, and then the no color on it. So we're going to work with the green wire first, which is the ground wire. So I'm going to take the coupler. As I said, I wanted to use this specifically because it gives me a place and a control area to work with the wiring. I'm going to go ahead and connect the ground, since this doesn't have a ground, to the metal. Now, when you're working with ground and there is no ground on the other end, you're going to use a grounding screw and connect it to the metal of the box, as that will become its own personal little ground spot. With that said, forgot one little step. this cable to be loosened. All right. So we have where it's going into. Again, I'm creating this as a little junction point. That's going to go in here. This is going to come through that way. Then we're going to take the ground, fix it to the metal, and then lock it in place. And that now makes the ground wire in place while we do the rest of the work. Now we're going to go ahead and get the white stripe and then find the white connector. We go ahead and tie that up. Let's give it a couple of twists. You want to make as good as a connection as you can, obviously, so that power can flow better than as good as it can. The more connection, the better the flow. And then you just lock the nut or the knot in place. And then you do the same. Finally, power last. And then put it in place. Now, to finally understand exactly what I meant by having a little junction box where everything is secured, this now goes in here, keeps everything out of the way, you don't have to worry about anything, and then I am going to just seal this just a little bit. And then if you have tapes like from Joanne Fabrics or things like that that have a special look or design to it, just to help the appeal. I happen to like industrial looks, so the rubberized black stripe is actually, to me, a style of my own. So that keeps everything in place. You now have a little spot in case you have to do any adjustments, and it keeps it safe from anything from really getting into it. Your hand's not going to really go there. If anything happens, it's just right there. All right, now it's time for testing. Now, bear with me as I only have one hand, so, well, I have two hands. There's one is holding the camera phone. Now you have this beautiful Edison bulb inside the bell jar. Let's go ahead and make sure, in my case I have a dimmer switch, make sure it's all the way to the off position. Plug it in. Of course, one-handed. All right, let me get to the switch. Now with the dimmer switch, most of these bulbs will either go up in volume. A lot of the LED will actually just have two phases. So there's the low phase and then high phase. So it actually gets pretty bright. It's really nice. I wish I can get better quality. Yeah, you're not going to really see how they separate in color, but it is quite the sight. Now, with that, all you really need to do is place hooks on the ceiling. There's small kits like this where it just hangs as you where you want it, how you want it. Otherwise, you're familiar with ceiling hooks and things like that. You just got to find the ones for you. I like the plastic hooks like this, as it keeps from the threading from sliding around as it goes through, and you can actually loop it around so that it locks in place. Once you're done, I'm going to go ahead and once again, I'm going to put you on pause while I hang it up and show you what it looks like in suspension. And there you have it. A hanging bulb, all ready for my holiday place setting. Let me go ahead and turn off the standard room light. And as all the gadgets that I have, I do have a remote power on controller. And there you go. Perfect little setting for a small dinner party. I hope this was informational, showing you exactly what you get and how it works. Installation is pretty easy. It's even easier if you're not holding a camera. So there you go. Happy holidays.